eventually working with Unilever, and she's also worked with PZ Cousins, L'Oreal West Africa, and her last job before starting her own 360-degree agency and marketing consultancy business called Quick Brand Limited. She was the director of sales and marketing with Graphic Communication. My guest today is a mother of three boys at that, not just three boys. Shirley Aqua Harrison. Also, you have a business in courier and real estate. I mean, today we are going to plunder your fine brain. You're welcome to the Executive Lounge.
Thank you.
I know when I say we're going to plunder your brain. Don't worry. We do it nicely and gently. But we just want to really learn. You're one of the most creative people I know.
Wow.
And
Thank you.
The ideas you come up with, and sometimes they look so effortless, but there's a lot of depth of knowledge that goes into that. And so we've seen countries burn to ashes, and then like the phoenix they rise again, and some do very well and go on to thrive. The COVID-19 pandemic is one that, in my estimation, can easily be likened to the entire world at war against an enemy that's really tearing through our backyard. And we would hope that as resilient as the human race has been, we will be able to thrive after this. Business is one critical area, how economies grow, and marketing cannot be overlooked in all of this. So does a pandemic like this present us with new challenges as well as new opportunities to do things differently? And that's something I would like to learn from you today.
Okay.
I remember I heard the 4 Ps became the 7 Ps. I don't know whether they're still going to remain 7 or we're going to have another 2 because of COVID-19, But what, first of all, should business owners, entrepreneurs, or startups be, whether you're selling tangible FMCG or you're doing services, what's the first thing that we should do in a pandemic like this?
Okay. First of all, when you're hit with something like this, nobody plans for a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would ever plan that something bad would happen. We always plan with the big ideas in mind,
mm-hmm.
with all the positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately something like this happens, the first thing you have to do is to re-strategize. So you look at what you're doing and see how best you can still survive through the period and even after the period. So first of all, the first thing you do is re-strategize.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you go about the re-strategization? Okay. So you're, it's like, so where we're at now is no different. Well, it is different, but you remember there was a time where we had so much fluctuation of the currency against the cedi against the dollar that I think it was 2016, That was the meltdown. But this was I think between 2014 and 2017 thereabout, where it was very difficult to almost you couldn't, because any forecast you did was thrown out of the window within a few days. Right. You wake up one day, there's a pandemic, lockdown. You have goods that are perishable. You have customers who can't come to you. How do you unpack your wahala before you strategize?
Okay, so we'll take it from the 4 Ps.
Okay.
I'm a different kind of marketer. I don't usually like to use the marketing jargons, etc., because I believe it should be the discussion should be something that everyone can understand and appreciate and utilize. Otherwise, they won't be doing anybody any favor.
That's right.
I won't want to go through the 7 Ps, and some are even saying 11 Ps. There are different Ps depending on where you stand. So I'll just take it from the basic 4 Ps that we know, which is product, place, price, and promotion. So we'll start with product. First of all, in a pandemic like this, you have to look at the sort of product or service. When I say product for this discussion, I mean the tangible
whatever it is you have to sell.
Yes.
Okay.
So you have to look at the product you're selling and look at how best you can be of help to your community in the area.
Okay.
Now, the basic thing with marketing is just like a relationship between a husband and a wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. So it is built on trust. It's built on the person knowing that you care about them. And that is why in marketing we have the emotional benefit of a product and the functional benefit of a product.
That's right.
So that is the reason why sometimes you see that somebody would buy a product that they did not even plan to buy. It's because of that emotional attachment to whoever is selling or the product itself. So when something like this happens, this is the best time marketers can actually take the situation into their hands and win the heart of their consumers and their prospects. So basically, you look at the product you are selling. How do you help the community? And this is something in our situation. I would give some examples like Kasapreko. Kasapreko is known for alcohol production.
That's right.
But immediately this thing happened, they started producing sanitizers. So they are looking at what they can use their raw materials to do to actually build some form of trust and I don't even know the word to use, but let consumers and potential consumers see that they actually care about society.
So they've repurposed the raw materials to deal with the pandemic.
Yes.
Now that's interesting. So I mean that's a business who uses raw materials which are beneficial. Directly related to the challenge we have. So how do you become agile in a situation where if you're not repurposing what you have by way of the raw materials, but you still want to be relevant to your audience, your target market? How do you do that with the speed and agility that they have?
Okay, so that will come in other forms of peace.
Okay.
Not necessarily the product.
Right.
So if you can use the product, you use the product. And I've given example of Kasapreko.
Yeah.
I can give an example of seamstresses. You know, with the lockdown, they weren't weddings, they weren't churches, there were no funerals. And these are places that people want to sew new things to go to. So if I were a seamstress, and with the government directive that people should start wearing face masks, immediately you see that you have to turn your knowledge of fashion into something else and start to make money from that side as well. Right. So that is where you use your product to actually let the community know that you think about them. So that's the first piece.
It's quite interesting you say that. I remember one day my mom came home. She had, just during the lockdown. I think it was just before, during the lockdown, she walked across the road to a lady around the corner that sells fruits and vegetables. And then she came back and she had a nose mask and she wanted to wash it and hang it on the line. I was like, where'd you get this? Because the seamstress made it and gave it to me. So I think it's very interesting that suddenly you're building a certain affinity with your audience. Exactly. And they are also seeing that, actually there's something I can come to you for in this time. Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah. Okay, if you just tuned in, it's 25 minutes past 1. This is the Executive Lounge, and my guest is a marketing consultant, Shirley Aqua Harrison, and we're discussing marketing innovation in a pandemic. She has tons of experience, and she's making it very, very relevant to us at the moment. So initially you said that the key thing to do would be to start from the basics, and the basics of the four P's, which apparently has now gone to 7, 8, 11, depending on where you're seated, is that it's product, price, promotion, and place.
Yes.
Right. So you said product. Looking at how the product can be adapted. So that it's relevant in the time of a pandemic.
Yes.
And if you can't adapt the product that you have, you can then manipulate some of the other P's, which is where we got to. Okay.
Exactly. And before I get to the next P, I want to say this thing. So many people, including even marketers, think that in everything you do, all the P's must align. There are some that will not get all the P's aligned. but it will give you the desired result. So it's not every piece that has to align at a particular time, especially during a pandemic like this. You can't. It is not a normal time, so you can't force to have all the pieces aligning. Because if you are trying to force all the pieces to align, you would be hurting yourself. So you look at the relevant ones and you work with that.
Okay, that's sound wisdom. I mean, it might be very difficult to drop your price on something.
Exactly.
So you can't say that, I must have the best advert out there. I must have this, and then the pricing. So you've got to have to sort of feel around.
Exactly.
And get how. This is a question for later because you're going to go to do this next bit. But how do you sort of feel around in terms of how do you deal with data in this era of big data? It's something I'd like to come to in measuring the trends to make the right decisions on what to do. So product out of the way. Let's see. I like promotion.
Promotion.
Yes.
Okay.
So in this period, we're all on social media. In fact, I don't know anyone who didn't buy a lot of bundle during the lockdown. Between watching on-demand videos, you were also, chatting with people, and we
listening to the president.
Yes. And then there was what's the other thing? The import and export business. People import funny videos and then they export it to groups. So you end up getting those things, all over again during the day. But people also use that period to put out information about what they're doing. So in this period, how do you stand out and catch the eye of your audience and even potentially new customers?
Okay. So it's like, I don't know, but people think that during times like this, when things are not normal, you have to stop spending. But this is the time you rather have to spend. Let's just picture 12 a.m. at midnight. The whole place is quiet. When something drops, you hear it.
Yeah.
So that is why during a period like this, you rather have to keep communicating. The import is what you are communicating. That is what is relevant, what you are communicating, and not just put anything out there. Because in times like this, your communication should show your consumers and potential consumers that you care about them. So you can change what your communication can be even something that is not in line with what you're doing. You can just decide to communicate the protocols, the safety protocols, etc. And just at the end, you mention your tagline or something. It is the context of what you are telling them that matters, and not really to say that I'm not doing anything at all, or I definitely have to do something, so anything at all I would put out there. Learn what it is that you have to give out, and look at what media you are using. As you said rightly, during the lockdown, almost everybody was on social media. But people being on social media also meant that there was information overflow on social media. So how you stand out there and how you make yourself relevant. And you and I know that on social media, attention span is so short.
We're all goldfishes on that platform. You 1 minute, another 30 seconds, and something new. So you really churn a lot of information. But how do you then become a cut above the rest and sort of be that clear voice in the noise?
You have to know your consumers. I mean, if you don't know someone, you cannot impress the person. So you have to know your consumers and know what they want to be able to do that. And I always say that if you want to do anything on social media, like any adverts, whatever, people respond more to videos on social media than any other thing. So if you're doing a video, something that you want to share on social media, make sure that the first 5 seconds is what captures everybody. Because once they are captured, they would listen. But if the first 5 seconds is kind of boring, they move on to the next thing. I'm someone who likes to play games a lot on my phone when I'm not doing anything. I play Candy Crush. I think that thing we need to investigate. But I think there's some spirit behind Candy Crush. That's another discussion for another day.
Someone combined their
yeah. Because I can play it the whole day during the lockdown.
Goodness.
Yes. So for something like that, sometimes there are videos that come through. Although I want to play, when a video comes, I either put it on silent, or I'll just do something in the interim
and wait for it to pass.
Yes, but I realized that the ones that caught my attention in the interim, in the first 5 seconds, I went on to look at what it was and what they were doing. So we must plan our advertising properly to be able to catch their attention. Because even before the pandemic, attention span was reducing everywhere. So we need to plan and make sure that we are hitting people at the beginning of our communication. And it is not just adverts. Most of the time when people talk about promotions, people think that it is only adverts. It's not adverts. It's even word of mouth. So how you make someone feel, the person can tell another person. So this is the time you have to look at how your relations with your people all come together. Because if someone is calling your phone and maybe you're not responding, or when you respond you're harsh, etc., the person can tell another person, that's all forms of promotion. It's not just doing your advert on radio or TV. That is promotion. What people say about you to another person is also part of the promotion.
Wow.
So we must be careful how we do our things as businesses.
So it's safe to say that in this period where we're fighting this unseen enemy, everything that a business does, they may get the reward or retribution later.
Oh yes.
Because people are looking out to see, who are the people who were there for us during this period?
Exactly.
I mean, when the hotels were closed, when we were on the full lockdown. Oh, you were coming to that one?
I'm coming.
Good. Let me hear your thoughts on that one.
Talk about the hotels.
Yes.
Because a lot of them were complaining about the hotels being shut down and their businesses going away. Hotels everywhere, most of the places are linked to tourism. So now people cannot travel, people cannot come to hotels, people cannot do that. But if I had a hotel, what I would be doing during this period was actually to do something on social media that shows some of the tourist sites in my area and how we can do something with those ones. So you are actually, by that, telling people to remember you when they are coming to the area to do anything.
Especially when we've all been locked up for so long, you want an escape.
Exactly.
So you're giving people an idea of where they could go.
Exactly. And then when the time comes where they are ready to go out, they are top of mind. Because they remember all those things that you were telling them from time to time.
That's interesting.
So you can always do something.
The example you give takes me back to quite a number of adverts that I had seen especially on Instagram, and it had to do with some of the airlines. One of the Middle Eastern, airlines that they were constantly advertising, and they say, well, we love flying you around the world to all these 300 and whatever destinations, but right now we need you to stay alive. So do this, wear your mask, do this, and do all of that. And I must be honest with you, I'm not interested in traveling this year, but I think I have thought about traveling to a few places because of the communication that these guys had put out. So promotion is not always about the bait to get it now, but it's also sowing into the minds of the people towards the future. Okay, I like the sound of that. Now, if your audience is we live in a digital world now. If you're selling something that will not necessarily conform to, let's put the stuff on Instagram, is there anything, first of all, that you could not advertise on digital media?
I don't think so.
Apart from the stuff that I rated 18 and illegal, everything else you can advertise on.
I think you can advertise everything.
That's true.
On
Churches,
social media. You can advertise everything and anything.
Interesting. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. See, I'm glad you were here. So it's 36 minutes past 1. This is the Executive Lounge. My guest is Shirley Akwa Harrison. She's the lead consultant at Quick Brand Marketing Consultancy, and she has tons of experience. So we're discussing marketing and marketing innovation during a pandemic. Now, we're not in normal times, and that calls for innovation, because you can't go at it the way you always have. And I think one of the key things you said earlier was that, and you're basing your the approach for innovation on using the 4 P's at the basic level. Now, you've talked about product, you've talked about promotion, but you've also said something profound, which is that in these abnormal times, you don't have to expect all your P's to be lined. Okay, good enough is good enough. You have to see what works for the now. Okay, so I've advertised. Maybe I'm not getting anything, but I have been able to get that top of mind. But I may be a premium brand prior to the lockdown, a brand that only catered to a niche, but suddenly that niche has been broken because this will be a niche, you know, and so it would take a while for the same customers who would normally come to me to come at the levels that they used to. So maybe I want to find a way to attract more outside of that niche market that I have. How do I manipulate my promotion, my promotional activities to reach a new audience? How do you change the messaging to reach people who hitherto are not your core?
It depends on what you're selling, actually, because if what you're selling isn't something that your core can afford, then you don't need to change your advertising to meet them.
Okay.
First of all, what you're selling should be something they can afford. If you want to change your communication, then the product you're sending to them, they should be able to afford it. Otherwise, it will be like just the Bible says, throwing your pearls before swine.
Yep, they will know the value.
Exactly.
Okay.
So before you even change your communication, you have to look at the product and see if it's them. And sometimes, for some companies, what you see them doing is to do brands that would be like a lower version of whatever it is, so that people can afford that, and then they would communicate around that one to the lower tier of the target market.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So you don't have to necessarily change the product, but so if the people you're trying to reach, the audience, cannot afford, you probably change some specifications around the product without compromising its overall quality, so you can offer it at a price.
Definitely you shouldn't, because you see, the thing is, I'm using COVID. Nobody knows where it's going to and when it's going to end, etc. If you have a product, you've built a brand, you don't just dilute that brand just because of the situation. So if you think that you're not, people don't have money, so cannot afford it, if it's not something that is perishable, you can always keep it and do something that will be a bit affordable with a different name, so you don't dilute that brand and sell that to people.
So bringing a new, so the innovation is preserve
brand extension,
so brand extension, but preserve the original brand, what you're known for.
You don't know what would happen unless it goes on and you think that this isn't something I'm going to do anymore. Then you can change it.
So if you are selling cocoa and suddenly you are realizing that getting the millet is difficult, stick to making the cocoa the way you do. Don't start pouring more water in it so you can serve more customers.
Yeah. Because once your quality goes down, that is it. And especially in this country we are living in, what happens is you see that somebody sees someone doing something, the next minute another person is doing it, the next minute, before you can say Jack, almost everybody is doing the same thing. And depending on how they do it and how they relate with their people, if you dilute yours, it's possible you lose your clients. So if you still want to be in the market, you can decide that, well, I'm not getting millet, But people also like what my good friend calls molikuku.
Mm-hmm.
So you do that instead of
right. So that's exactly. So you might have some of your people switching to that and accommodating more people. I like that. Okay, right. So we know our customers. It seems from what you said so far that it's important for us to always have some feelers on the ground. That you should know where the wind is blowing, and also be able to quickly adapt to the needs of the customers and the target audience. So you've got your product okay, you've released some new product, to extend the brand, and it seems to be doing okay. And then a competition, also releases something, that they're also in the race. In your experience from FMCG, you're constantly, having category fights. So you'll find yourself that you're innovating and someone is also innovating because everybody must stay alive, right? And they're beating you on price. But you cannot necessarily drop your price. How do you... what kind of innovation can save you?
Okay, are you talking in relation to the pandemic or
yes,
generally?
It can be general. I mean, some of these things are things I think can be,
general, okay. So, if you can't go down on your price, there's so many things you can do to offer value to the client.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, let's say I have a product and a competitor has the same thing. I don't know how the competitor is able to charge lower, because especially based on the fact that we are all using the same raw material.
Okay.
I don't know how they're able to do that, but if I look at mine and I see that it's not something I can do, you can give added benefits, like maybe we'll deliver to you without you paying. You can decide to do something else. Maybe if you buy this, we'll give you this. Do something different to let the person feel that you're giving them value. But you don't necessarily have to try to beat down the price, because of course if you go out of business, then you're out. So if really you can't go out, and sometimes you have to look at your input prices, because sometimes maybe where you are buying your raw material
is what's making your price high.
So you have to look. I always say that as a marketer, you have to understand every facet of the business. So you have to understand finance, you have to understand supply chain, you have to understand everything. That is the only way it's going to work. Because it's very possible, and I always say that I'm very grateful I started my marketing from Unilever. Because as a brand person, you must know every raw material that goes into your product.
Okay.
You must know even the measurements of the product, the raw material that goes into your product. You must know the prices. You must be able to calculate your gross margin. It is something that you have to do. And thanks to Yansako and Eben Asante and all those people, they will take you through the mill for you to know. Because when your brand is not doing well, Yansako is not going to ask the finance person. He's coming to you, the marketing person, to ask you. So you have to know everything that goes into your product. So it is possible that it is where you are buying it that is making your cost go up. So you have to look at other ways that you can get your input product at a cheaper price so that you're able to, and that doesn't mean going down on your quality.
I think in 2009 or so there was a story about Ford posting I think it was just over $1 billion of profit, and this was during the financial crisis. And when I read that article, I realized that it wasn't the innovation at the time was actually dealing with supply chain constraints, and then also production processes. So you can be competitive only if you have your eye on the ball.
Yeah, you have to have your eye on everything. So sometimes it's not just about this let me reduce price. No. It can be any other thing. Sometimes it's even packaging. It's even packaging. Maybe, let's say, bottled water. Depending on the length of the cover, the price is different.
That's
So you can decide that we are doing innovation. We are making the bottle cap smaller. You save some money. You can sell at the same price. So there are different ways you can go about it without compromising the quality of the
product that's in there.
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. It's 46 minutes past 1, and we're going all the way to 2 p.m. My guest in the studio talking about innovation, marketing innovation during the pandemic is Shirley Aqua Harrison. And someone's just asked the question, how can I listen to the program again? Well, it's live on Facebook. And you go to our Facebook page, Joy997FM, and in our videos you will see a playlist which includes the Executive Lounge, and you should be able to go over the show again. And it's also available on our Google podcast and Apple podcast. So make sure that you're able to catch that again for all the insights that you missed before. Product price. Promotion. So place.
Okay.
So place in India right now, from what I'm seeing, place is now online. Everywhere and anywhere.
Yep.
My phone. Mm-hmm. I have done work for an organization for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I've only spoken to my contact by voice once. Since then, they send me scripts. I read it, I send it back, they review, they send their comments, I do what they want, they are happy, they pay me. All from WhatsApp and mobile money. So place has become, place was already upside down. Once you enter business today, you're already fighting global competition. Now that we have this pandemic on our hands, where do you see opportunities for innovation around place? And by place, I want you to think of place as in physical location for us Ghanaian business people. Is there any geographical advantage we can bring to the rest of the world that we can use to innovate?
That's a tough one. But if I'm talking about place, I think for now, with what has happened, we've seen that the brick and mortar isn't really the place we should be doing business. Mm-hmm. We have to go beyond brick and mortar.
Okay.
And a lot of people are doing their businesses online. And for me, I think that's a plus for all of us, because anywhere in the world, everybody has access to everything online. Mm-hmm. So I can be in Ghana and be looking for something, and I can find a product outside Ghana. In the same vein, someone can be outside Ghana and will be looking for something, go online and find it. In this pandemic that we find ourselves in, I think this is a time where every business, no matter your size, you have to be online. You have to have an online shop of a sort. If you can't afford to have a full website, you can latch on to those who have their online markets, etc.
Oh yeah, so there are all these marketplaces where you exactly kind of like pay a subscription and be hosted. Okay.
So that you are there for people to find you. Because I can tell you that everybody wants comfort. Mm-hmm. And what COVID-19 has done to us is to make us see that we can have all the comfort we want and still have what we want. And this is because now you can stay at home and just order something and it will be delivered to you.
Yeah.
That is something that if everything else should revert to what it was before COVID, is not going to revert to COVID.
Yeah.
So we need to start looking at that seriously. And this includes churches, it includes schools. It's not just about business, everything. Now, people will say that it's not everybody who knows about online and it's not everybody who go and shop online. Assuming I have a neighborhood shop, what stops me from taking down the addresses, contact of those who come to my shop once a while and offer them the service of just sending me a list of what they want and I'll deliver to them in their house? That's an added value that you're
just within the neighborhood.
Just within the neighborhood.
And you could be doing this in small WhatsApp broadcast list.
And once people know that, and I can tell you for a fact, one of my kids, since this pandemic, I think since schools were asked to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember when it was.
I think it was
in March, around
16th of March. Yes, 16th of March.
From that time till now, he's come out of the house twice. He's come out of the house twice. One was to go and visit my mom. And even that, it was because my mom had an eye surgery.
Okay.
And we were going to see her.
Right.
So he went. The second one, we were going to do shopping, and everybody was going. So he came along, but he sat in the car. He did not get down.
Wow.
Because he's so afraid of catching COVID. So someone like this, if he's in your neighborhood and he wants to buy something and can send you a message for you to send to him, you've won him forever.
Yeah.
Because of what you're doing. So
you're meeting them at the point of their need.
Of their need. And that is what consumers want.
So find what the need is.
Find it.
But how do you do that? I think this ties nicely into the whole data analytics thing.
Data.
But okay, so when you say data, everyone thinks there has to be some big computer that's churning out stuff and analyzing stuff. But I mean, if we go back to the neighborhood store, the people come, they go. You talk to them. So knowing their names, knowing which house they live in, and what they do. All of that is data.
It's so easy. And for example, I go on Facebook a lot. You hardly see me comment. I comment once a while.
But you see everything.
You see, you read what people put on their pages. Sometimes when I go, I read something someone has put on the page. I go to the person's page. Then I'll look at About Us. And I try to see what the person likes, see what the person keeps posting. So you should do things like that to get you to know people. Yeah, you get to know people. And I always say that was even before this thing. I keep giving this example that since MTN started giving birthday cakes to people on their birthdays, everybody is giving birthday cake. But you should know your customers.
What if a person is diabetic, they don't like cake?
Exactly.
You know, to be honest with you, my birthday is next month. Please, just send money. I don't like birthday cakes, you know. Give me a little bit of good food and just make the rest money.
Yeah.
You know, because cakes, there was a time, I mean, so I bought some chocolate cake, it's been in the fridge for about a month. I had about 3 slices, and I've been fighting the kids. Every day I open the fridge and see it in there. I'm like, if you guys don't eat this thing, I'll be very upset. But so collect data. And collecting data clearly from what you're saying is not rocket science.
It's not difficult. It's not difficult at all, because I mean, these are people you work with, and even if you don't work with them, it's so easy to find what people like. Google does it. It's an AI, yes. Yeah. But there are times you'll even be talking to someone about something. The next time you go on, they are showing you adverts.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's because they are picking things that you are interested in, things that you keep looking for. So it's really easy. The only thing is that you have to look for a dedicated resource to do that if you can't do it.
Yeah.
So that is why sometimes it's good that for companies to do very well with social media, analytics and all that, you have to get somebody to do your social media. So you either outsource it or you employ someone who will run it internally. But not to get all the same people who are doing the branding, to be managing the pages and to be doing that. You will not get the full benefits of it. Sometimes we think that, we are spending money, but as the fancies say, was the number was So
spoken like a true fan.
Was the number was So you have to try and put out something
instead of seeing it as a cost. It's actually an investment that protects the bottom line.
Exactly.
Wow, that's interesting. Oh, we only have 5 more minutes to go, and I think I have a couple more questions. But this has to do with, you talk about the use of data, knowing your customers. So I also feel that, an example comes to mind. So somebody started a business selling, I think it was clothing for women. But what they started doing was that everyone who came into the store, they filled out an index card with their name. telephone number, email address, and what they did. And the shop probably was half the size of this studio. But over time, they didn't need to expand the shop. They rather invested in a warehouse, and they were selling straight to customers, because when the products come, they send a broadcast. And they've been able to group based on the index card. They know, because this is a size 14 person, so I don't need to be sending stuff that are only available in bigger size and all of these things. So it goes to prove that data is critical.
Yes, data is very critical.
Do you foresee a situation where, I can't think of a nicer example, but imagine a beer company in the light of COVID deciding that they're going to add some multivitamins to their beer, just to say, is there room for innovation that either can change the category in which a business plays? That's beyond extension, isn't it?
Some are faulty extensions.
Okay.
so they don't really work. And I'm looking at this beer example.
Beer vitamins.
Yeah, beer vitamins.
Yeah, don't worry.
It could have worked, but in this COVID era, we are being told to limit our intake of alcohol. So if you add the multivitamin to the beer,
so to maybe non-alcoholic beer.
Exactly. If it's non-alcoholic, perfect.
In fact, they should come and see us. We'll give them the recipe.
If it's non-alcoholic, perfect.
Right.
Sometimes we try to stretch it and it doesn't work. So, for instance, I can't see. It will be difficult for people to think about, say, a food company coming out with, say, a sanitizer brand. Because they are a bit different.
Yeah.
But if a food company says
they are
we
both
have this,
good, but you don't want the two
together.
want
the two together. If they say that, we have this food that we've added these vitamins to, or something, this healthy option, it works. But
so the lowest hanging fruits are not going to be on someone else's tree. It will be on your tree.
It will be on your own tree. Sometimes we like to look outside what we are doing, but look within what you're doing. Look within what you're doing. I can give an example with my own advertising newspaper that I have. When COVID started, I realized that people would not want to be touching things. So initially, I was printing hard copies.
That's right.
And I was having the digital version, but I just put the digital version out there. Once COVID started, I decided no more I'm going to stop the hard copy, because people will not want something that someone has touched, etc. So I'll just do the digital one and rather boost it extensively on social media. And you will not believe the number of hits and calls I get since I started that.
That's an example of innovation in the pandemic. Well, it's exactly 1400 hours. Shirley Akwa-Harrison, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us for this conversation. I'm going to hand you over to the big Max. Maxwell Agwagwa is bringing us the headline news at 2. Max, so what's in the headlines this afternoon?